Hello again. I'm Jim Grant, the Director for Social Justice Ministry for the Diocese of Fresno, and it's a pleasure for me to once again return to our program, Catholic Social Teaching 101. The episode today is our 17th, and the principle that we'll be looking at are really two. Option for the poor is our fourth Catholic principle of social justice, and our sixth is solidarity. And when we put together those two principles, it addresses the issue right now in our very city of Fresno, is our Syrian brothers and sisters who are moving from war-torn Syria to live among us. We have a wonderful panel today that is here to share their ministry in different ways to what is their commitment to this effort. On my extreme right would be Zac Guerra, who is the Executive Director for Fresno Interdenominational Refugee Ministries. In the middle of our group is Mohammad Talib, who is working at Affirm as a translator, interpreter, facilitator for work with our Arabic-speaking refugees. To my close right here, my brother Reza Nekumanesh, Executive Director of the Islamic Cultural Center of Fresno. I'd like to open the conversation with Zac, who has never had the pleasure of being on this panel. Zac, tell us briefly a little bit about why it is that Affirm saw the need to start to address the refugee crisis with the Syrians, as Affirm has done so long with every other group that comes to Fresno.
Sure. So Affirm, this is our 23rd year serving the refugee community in Fresno. And so obviously for us, when the Syrian refugees started coming to Fresno, I think it was a natural fit for who we are as an organization and what we're about. Our mission is to share Christ's love, to build communities of hope with new Americans. The refugees coming here to Fresno from Syria are new Americans. And so it's a natural fit to our mission and who we are. And so we couldn't do that without partnership, without collaboration. And actually, Reza was one of the first people that we were able to talk to about, hey, how do we get involved? How can Affirm be supportive? How can we be a partner in the work that's going on? Because there was work going on before Affirm was involved with the families. A lot of wonderful work, Reza and ICCF being one of the organizations taking the lead on that, as well as a wonderful group of volunteers who actually Mohammad Talib is one of those, as well as the other staff who will be on panels today. We're doing this all volunteer. And so when Affirm got involved and as we kind of saw what was going on, I said, well, who are all these great people doing all this work every day with the families? And they said, these people are just here out of the goodness of their hearts. And so Affirm kind of stepped into that, and I said, hey, we'd love to get you on staff. We'd love to find a way to compensate you for your time and also to provide more support and resources and however we can for what they're doing. Yeah.
So, Reza, that brings up you. How was it that you saw the connection possible with Affirm? You've been connected, obviously, prior, but how did it really connect over the Syrian community?
Sure. So, ICCF was already trying to work with families. We try to work with families that are in need in any way we can, which is usually just trying to find some sort of support or services that they need. And as we knew more and more families were coming to Fresno, we decided to start hosting some meetings where we invited different people and different organizations to come together to talk about what does it look like moving forward, because ICCF doesn't have the ability, nor the training, nor the resources, nor the know-how to be able to serve a refugee community. That's not what we do. And luckily, Affirm was willing to not just get on board, but to say, you know what, we have the ability, we have the know-how, we're going to try to get the resources. We'll partner with you, so that way we have some community credibility, and also we have the ability to tap into some resources that maybe Affirm can't get. So Affirm can take the lead, and now ICCF can be a partner and a support for the work that Affirm is doing with their great team.
So speaking, Zac, of the great team, can you introduce us to some of the other players in this effort to address the need to have Arabic on the table? And then that'll give Mohammed a chance to share exactly what he's concretely doing as one of the new employees, one of the new team members at Fresno Interdenominational Refugee Ministries. So Tell us how it came about that you could come up with, I guess, the money and the commitment. How did that come about?
Sure. Well, yeah, one of the first things, of course, was that, and this is what I've learned at Affirm very much so, is, cultural and linguistic competency are paramount to be able to properly serve families who have refugee backgrounds from wherever it is. Affirm's kind of wheelhouse or sweet spot really has been with the Southeast Asian refugee community. And so that's something that our staff and even myself, as I've learned, we know a lot about that. With the families from Syria, we don't know anything about that. And so we don't have any cultural competency nor linguistic capacity to serve the families. And so one of the first questions, and Reza was one of the people actually I talked to about this early on, was, hey, who are the people doing this work? Who are people that might be a good fit to build a team at Affirm to serve the families? And a number of names came out of that conversation, one of which is Wasan Abu Bakr, who will be here today with you later. One of the names is Salim Sayufi, who is another one of our staff. Layla Darwish, who is another one of our staff, and then Mohammad Talib, who is here next to me. And so all of these folks speak Arabic. They have cultural and linguistic competency and capacity to serve the families, and they already had relationships with the families.
And the passion.
Yeah, and the passion. Working with refugee resettlement, it's a challenging task. The families have a lot of needs. And not only do they have needs, they're also trying to figure out where they fit now that they're here. How do you navigate basic systems, cultural competency with regards to American culture and how life kind of works here, even learning English and things like that, on top of making sure their kids are in school, making sure that their family has their basic needs met. It is even though we pay the staff for the hours they have, there's not enough hours in a day for even a staff team of 4 to do all the work that's necessary. And but how the resources came about, that's a great question. So Affirm has worked through the Fresno County Department of Behavioral Health for quite a long time. They have a program called the CBANS program, which is an acronym that is culturally based access and navigation of support services. And so the program really is actually a mental health program that allows us to provide direct one-on-one support, peer support groups, and community workshops. We were operating this program with Hmong, Laotian, and Cambodian staff. And so the very first thing that I thought of was, let's ask the county to see if they would come to the table and say, hey, what if we added Syrian refugees to this program? And if there was a way to expand the contract, and they said, we would love to do that. And so that was the dollars that came to the table. The contract should be signed even as early as this week, but I mean, it's about almost $400,000 for the next 4.5 years.
Wow.
And so that's the type of sustainable dollar that is necessary in the community. As much as we can raise funds or ICCF can raise funds, we can't raise funds at that pace or at that sustainable level, because really we're looking at years of serving the families. And so they were the first ones to come to the table at that level of support, and so that has allowed us to bring on staff. That pays for 3 of the staff, and then Mohammed is actually paid through resources that we're raising in the community. Right. And so that's how we kind of brought the team of 4 together, and we could bring more. They're all part-time. And so that's just how the dollars have lined up. And we're consistently trying to raise more dollars so that we could have a full-time team. And that's really what the families, from what I've observed, they need, that type of support. And so, and I also want to say, these are only 4 of the people on a team, right? There's a lot of other folks, a lot of volunteers, a lot of folks from the Muslim community and the non-Muslim community who are investing dollars, time into these families' lives every single day. Our community in Fresno, from what I've learned and what you've seen even with the Southeast Asian refugees, we get this. We get this concept, and we typically have done a great job. So, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mohammed, now your chance to share what you may have been doing before starting with Affirm that made you the prime candidate to join the team, and what you're doing now with Affirm, Mohammed. Tell us a little bit about that work you're doing.
Well, really what I was doing before Affirm, and even now with Affirm, is the same. It's kind of what Zac mentioned a while ago about culture. You know, they're new here. They don't just need language or English support. They need to know how the system works, how everything else works. And really all I did was just listen. At some point they just want to talk, and you just have to listen. Just listen, and then that's pretty much it. And yeah, there's the day-to-day getting them settled in with IDs, welfare, making sure they get their Medi-Cal, make sure they're set with the welfare. Because this is all new to them, the whole system in the Middle East. We don't really have that back there. So it's just really getting them settled and just listening to them.
Now, I heard something about there's maybe 25 families or so, and that you've been able to somehow divide up the families so that the volunteers address a certain group of them. So it's not scattershot, it's focused. Tell us just a little bit, Mohammed, about maybe your group, your families that you're working with. Describe them just a little, vague terms, what you're doing, biggest challenges, biggest blessings. What's the biggest blessing you've been able to share with your families?
That's a tough one. But with every family, there's a story. But I think that the most important thing I was lucky enough to share and work with is we gathered a bunch of volunteers, and we made a tutoring session. We have a classroom. Wesley Church gave us the classroom.
Nice.
It's real close by. It's a 5-minute walk.
Great.
Bunch of volunteers from Fresno State, Fresno City, Clovis community.
Oh my.
Male and female. They both speak Arabic and English. They dedicate their Saturdays and Sundays, 2 hours, 3 hours, to tutor the kids. So
this is great.
It really is.
It is wonderful that we are going to be having panels rotating to share different aspects of this expanded outreach, this expanded commitment to our new neighbors. I want to thank Zac and Mohammed and Reza for this first half of our show. And we're going to take a little trip now with a prayer that comes to us from Catholic Relief Services, reminding us that we must reach across borders if we are going to develop a world in which we are building bridges and not building walls. And then we're going to hear a word from the Pope, and then we'll be back with our second panel. So please stay tuned. We'll be taking a break, but we'll be back immediately. God bless.
¿Puede un país afrontar por sí solo las dificultades que produce la emigración forzada? Debemos pasar de la indiferencia y del miedo a la aceptación del otro. Porque ese otro podría ser tú o yo. Súmate conmigo en esta petición. Que los países que acogen a gran número de refugiados y desplazados sean apoyados en su esfuerzo de solidaridad.
Hello and welcome back to the second half of our program. As you can notice, we have new guests to continue where our first panel left off. Over on my extreme right is the program director at Affirm, Lucky Siphongsay. Again, we have Mohammad Talib to share more about his ministry as a translator, facilitator, family helper through Affirm. And a new guest is Wasan Abu Bakr, who happens to be one of those translator, facilitators, and program movers over at Affirm. She had already been on the program before when she worked at American Friends Service Committee. Why don't we begin with Lucky? If Lucky could tell us anything about programming that's going on over at Affirm, as Zac led us to understand, and why it is that this is a great thing for Affirm to be reaching out to the Syrian community.
Right. Yeah, well, thank you, Jim, for having me here today. I think one of the things that came about this, the process of how this all started. As you know, Affirm has been working with the Southeast Asian community for numerous years. And one of the programs that was established here, to piggyback on what Zac said, was our CBANS program, Cultural Based Access Navigation Service. This program is designed to work directly and provide direct services to the families. When we met with Wasan and Mohammed, we felt that there was a need for this. So their main objective, mission objective for this program is to provide those additional services, taking folks to DMV to get their IDs or licenses, taking them to their doctor appointments, interpreting those English language, which can be a challenge. Those were identified needs that we had at that point. English, how to get folks to navigate the system. So the design of this was in the beginning, was so complex, right? We had to integrate a lot of different rules and policy changes and whatnot. So we were able to, at that point, reach out to Fresno County, our behavioral health department, and design a program that would bring in 4 Arabic staff to be part of Affirm, and then to have them split their caseload. There's roughly about 16 families here right now, a total of 150 folks. So it's very challenging working with a lot of that different groups. So we decided to split the caseload. Wasan will have about, outside of a certain area, she'll have 4 or 6 families. Mohammed and Layla, who is not here today, Layla Darrah, and Salim will be able to get 4 to 5 families as well in order to tackle some of those needs for the families. So.
Now, Wasan, we've been in touch for a long time. You've been on a program. You've been sharing with me for months your commitment to the Syrian community. Tell us a little bit about some of the further outreaches, such as films, such as symposiums, such as other projects that are helping to get the community aware of what's going on with our Syrian brothers and sisters. Some of the things you're doing personally and with your husband. Tell us some of that.
Thank you for inviting me today, Jenn. It's a pleasure. The important thing for this community is recognize that we have families that have been traumatized, and they lived in Syria, then they displaced to other countries, host countries like Jordan and Turkey and Lebanon and Iraq. So they've been through a lot of trauma and difficulties the last 4 years. And we want to raise awareness to the people who did not hear about the war in Syria or the effect of the war in Syria, and to raise cultural awareness to people who are willing to help volunteer. The important thing with the families is if you want to help them or volunteer your time for them, you need to understand that they've been through a lot and they have their own culture, religion. They speak, most of them, only one language, the Arabic. Most of them, they did not go to school for many years. And they have they're large families, they have lots of kids, so they have lots of needs. So we want to raise awareness in our community in Fresno, in colleges, between students, educators, professional people like healthcare providers, because we want people to hear the needs of the family, so they can call and say, well, Affirm, we have those resources. We have this organization, or we have this place that we can offer those resources or services for the families. For example, next week we will have the symposium at Fresno State. The Middle Eastern Department Studies, they want to decide to do a symposium about the Syrian refugees in Fresno. So they're inviting a lot of organizations from San Francisco, from Los Angeles, that they very professional, and they some of them they had published books about refugees. Some of them they've been serving the families overseas, and they invited 2 local organizations, one of them Affirm, and the American Friends Service Committee, who I'm doing the fellowship with them. They're doing different services with the families. American Friends Service Committee, they're doing the cultural work with the families, how to share their own stories and help them heal. And this is very important for the Syrian families. We want them be able to share their own stories with people, so people can hear their needs through their stories. Raising awareness is very important at school for the kids. There are a lot of volunteers and teachers. They have clear heart, they have pure heart, they all want to help in different ways. But we are, as Affirm, we want to direct them. We want to tell them those are the needs for the families. You need to go to cultural orientation class through Affirm if you want to teach English. Or if you want to help them to learn how to drive. If you speak Arabic, you can translate for them. If you want to be a friend, you can be one of their support team. If you want to, for example, take them to field trips, there are ways that you need to respect this culture. They're Muslims. We need to respect that there are certain things we need to be aware with if we want to visit families, if we want to help them. The other thing is the documentary film that will be in April 6th, and the director of the film, he's Syrian from Orange County, and we got contact with him, me and Zac. Then we decided to invite him to come to Fresno. He's been doing a lot of documentary films in Lebanon and Europe about the families. And it's very important for Fresno people to see what they've been through before they come to the United States, and they still have families there. So they're still connected, and they still have their own fears. And we want to help them to be adjust here. My husband, he was connected to Clinica Sierra Vista from the beginning, He's one of the people who's doing he's a pharmacist, so he was connecting to Ruben from Clinica, and he was taking the families as one of the volunteers because he's an Arabic speaker, and he shared the same religion with him. He's Muslim. He took them a lot of times to doctor appointments, and he was able to coordinate with Clinica Sierra Vista to have an interpreter that she speaks Arabic, and they hire a person that can do the job. And she's been helping the families the last, I think, 2 months now. And it's all about partnership. That's what we want. When we connect with people, when we raise awareness, we do partnership. So we do productive work in the community.
It is obvious to me, seeing what is going on and hearing more of it in this program, that there is a partnership. I wonder if Mohammed can share one thing. We who are Anglo in this country have an immense amount to learn about other cultures. We are very, very insulated, and we're very, very territorial and very limited. I'm wondering, Mohammed, what you personally have also learned from your work with your Syrian families that would have been even a lesson to you, who is on the giving end at this point. But I'm wondering, what's coming back to you that you would say, I've learned an awful lot about another culture? One thing can you share about what you benefited from?
Well, I was born in Syria, and I'm also Iraqi, and I lived around 10 years in the Middle East. So I think I got the cultural part. But what I learned, especially with the Syrian culture, a bit more better, and with any culture, and especially the Arab culture, is don't make a promise you can't keep. Never. If only I knew that when I first started as a volunteer, and if I learned it fast. But yes, I made those mistakes. But don't make a promise you can't keep, because you will be held against it, whether you're a volunteer, whether you work. And in our religion and in Islam, we tell people, always give 70 excuses to your Muslim brother. But even then, sometimes you need only just one excuse, and even then, so it's very hard. But yeah, I would say just be straight with your word and be truthful, and don't try to do something you can't do. That's pretty much it.
I want to thank our panel, Lucky and Mohammed and Wasan, for what we just learned in this program. The last point from Mohammed is the one that is going to stick with me. So often we do make commitments, promises, pledges. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll be there for you. I support this project. Yeah, but do we really? And I really want to thank our panel, but especially Mohammed, for making us aware that we have not only to put our word onto things we're going to do, but our feet in our hands. Let's complete the promises we're making to our Syrian brothers and sisters. Thank you. We'll be back again next month with another Catholic Social Teaching 101. Till then, God bless.